What's going on, people? The monthly card for November was revealed today. It'll be on screen already, somewhere in this general vicinity, something like that. I don't know. Wherever I wind up putting it. So, the card, I'm going to be looking off to the side as I read the text to you all. It is Rimmen Purveyor. It's a 4-cost 4/4 Dark Elf with the ability Summon, consume a creature, reduce the cost of each creature in your deck that shares a type with that creature by 1. I've got a number of opinions on this card, and I'm kind of honestly split down the middle, even by myself, my internal feelings on it, because on one hand, there's a whole bunch of decks that I cannot wait to just jam this card into, and on the other hand, I hate this card. So I'm at odds. I guess we'll start. We'll start with the negatives. I'm worried about this card long term. You guys already know my feelings on cost reduction effects as a whole. I think this card is incredibly dangerous. I don't think it's potentially necessarily broken right out the gate. But I think this is one of those cards that kind of sits there and is waiting to break the game like forever. I'm not a brilliant combo deck mind, so I don't necessarily know exactly how I would build a combo around this card. I just know that a permanent cost reduction for all creatures in your deck, targeted, of course, but a permanent cost reduction nonetheless is incredibly dangerous, and someone much smarter than myself is going to find a way to break the game with this card. It may not be initially, the card may not have enough support right out the gate, but this is one of those cards that just kind of waits in the wings and then eventually just attacks. Kind of like Disciple of Nimira. That card's been out forever, it's been kind of garbage forever, and then one day, pop! And it broke the game. So on that hand, I don't like cards that are just waiting to break the game, but I guess wait and see. This card may never actually come to fruition. I just think I think eventually, given enough cards, this card's going to break something. But enough about why I don't like the card somewhat. Let's get into uses for the card. One thing that I think can be potentially very interesting, but it depends on how you build your deck. This card, I believe, will be able to pull reduced cost cards with conscription. So if you have, let's say, a deck full of Khajiit and you play conscription, you should be able to pull 3 costs once you've reduced your cards at least once, and obviously 2, 3, whatever times. You can get some big beefy boys pulled from conscription. So I expect people to mess around with this card in some conscription decks. Not all of them, because they don't all run the same creature types. But that leads me into the next synergy that is quoted in the article. And some people were unsure about this, so it's nice to at least clarify. Reflective Automaton, if it is consumed by Rimmen Purveyor, it will reduce the cost of everything in your deck by 1, since Reflective Automaton counts as all creature types. I know some people were a little concerned about it or not sure, because Reflective Automaton's all creature types is in the card text and not the creature type, but it's quoted in the article that it will reduce the cost of everything. So maybe somebody can high roll in a conscription deck and consume Reflective Automaton and then pull everything else out, or maybe that'll be part of the combo that happens one day. I don't know, but that is a potential use of the card right off the bat. However, you guys know me. You guys know the decks I like to play. I think this card can work in a lot of my janky little bad tribal decks. For example, an animal deck could be pretty solid. However, this is my concern with using an animal deck. If it takes, like, exactly Mud Crab instead of, like, Beast as a whole or whatever, or yeah, like there's Reptile, Wolf, if it takes the exact tag, this won't fit as well in my Animal Monk. We'd have to target Reflective Automaton in this case. However, even targeting Beast will reduce most of the deck, so it still wouldn't be that bad. But yeah, I think Animal Monk is a perfectly reasonable spot where I'm going to want to play this card. There is potential to replace Shrewd Strategist, which I've been looking to replace anyway, but in my Unrelenting Siege Monk deck, we could potentially replace Shrewd Strategist with 2 copies of Rimmen Purveyor, and use it to make all of these Khajiit cost 0, or just reduce the cost of everything overall, and that would make the combo one turn closer, or potentially multiple turns closer to triggering. So Unrelenting Siege is a spot where I am interested in trying this card out. Skeleton deck as a whole, obviously it couldn't be Sorcerer. You'd have to do Skeleton Scout here, so I have to get rid of all these blue ones. But in a deck where you're running all Skeletons, a Purveyor might not be bad. The only problem is the 4-drop slot is already kind of heavy. So running an extra group of 4-drops could be a little bit too much to really pull off. But I think it's worth at least exploring in Scout. And we'll probably give that a try at some point. What else do we got? I know I got more. Goblin Monk. I don't think we'll necessarily want to run this card. Especially not my version where it's not super Goblin heavy. It's just somewhat Goblin heavy. Like, I don't think I replace any of these 4-drops with Purveyor. You maybe can consider dropping like Razumdar and Sai Sahan in favor of running 2 of those. I don't think you necessarily go that route, although I am running Reflective Automaton in the deck. I don't know. Honestly, Reflective Automaton probably even could get cut, but I just like that it's a somewhat aggressive 2-drop. I don't know. Maybe you try it in a Goblin Monk or like a Goblin Assassin or whatever, Goblin, whatever you like. I don't know if that's necessarily the best place for it, though. And you know, your boy would be remiss if I didn't mention Dragon decks. This is just the Dragon Empire that I had been running just because I felt it was a pretty powerful version of a Dragon deck. Dragons are known, as you can see, they are expensive AF. So if you can get even a 1-cost reduction on your dragons, absolutely huge. We'll probably be trying this deck right off the bat, and I think it's perfectly reasonable to cut not necessarily 2 Emperor's Blades, although you could consider it. You could cut, you know, some Devours if you want to try that. There's stuff that you can cut from this deck if you really wanted to make this work. And I think we'll probably explore it. Maybe even cut the Reanimates to make it slightly less greedy, and run the Purveyors just to reduce some costs. But I think Dragon Empire as a whole is a spot where this can really shine, since the card is most of the cards are so expensive. And I do think, although there are no invade cards in green, I don't think. Yeah. I think that maybe trying to run some sort of green-based invade could be a potential option. Maybe even in a tricolor deck. So instead of like, normally it would be Guildsworn, maybe you do something like Dagoth. And it would really just be for Purveyor plus Cycle. Since combo invade is no longer quite a thing, you can get your 1 gate out, and then if you're reducing, you know, your Volcanized Mage, your Invasion Vanguard, your Invasion Scout, all of them down to either 0 or 1 cost, you can kind of get your pseudo combo together. You're still not double gating, but you can kind of burst invade in a hurry with a lot of cheaper Daedra. So that is a potential option. I don't think it will really come into play, but it is a way to kind of support invade post nerf. I'm trying to think if there's any other tribal type decks that I would want to run. I'm not really sure off the top of my head. I do think you could probably run something like a Nord based archer. I think there are a lot of Nords. And yeah, so you got a whole bunch in red. Obviously, it's like the main Nord color. And typically, I think you would normally go Crusader. That's where the next most Nords are. But you could potentially go something like Astrid, Blaze Flanker, Brynjolf, and slap in a Rimmen Purveyor to give yourself just a group of Nords. And honestly, that's the thing I'm most excited about with this card, is it allows me to come back and visit a whole bunch of the tribal decks. I don't know if you guys were around at this point on the channel, but it's probably about a year ago. I went through and made tribal decks for every single tribe in the game, pretty much. We played, like, Dark Elf Archer and, you know, I think it was Wood Elf Archer, Dark Elf Assassin. Like, we played every single tribe possible. So, getting Rimmen Purveyor is a perfectly suitable enough reason to come back and revisit many of those tribal decks, slap them in some sort of green color whenever possible, or a tricolor with green, and see if we can't get those tribal decks to be improved a little bit. And it's been a year. We've gotten a whole bunch of cards since then. So I think it's perfectly reasonable to revisit some of those tribal decks. And I think that was some of the most fun we had on the channel, was playing all of those tribal decks. So getting another tool to try and kind of explore that a little bit more, I am completely down with. And we will probably give it a try soon. So let me know what you guys think of the monthly card. Let me know what you're planning on using it for. If there are any particular green-based tribal decks that you would like to see me give another shot with Rimmen Purveyor, let me know down below in the comment section. Other than that, thank you guys all very much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.